All right, I'm going to be talking about a very interesting topic in dog training, just really in dog ownership, and really, if you want to take it a little bit further, even it's a topic that even encompasses everything regarding living things, and that is that no two animals can ever be identical. Again, if you can make this a big scale, you could look at twins, never look identical. But we're not talking about people, we're not talking about twins, we're talking specifically about animals and about dogs more particularly. So, if you've been working with dogs for a very long time, you probably noticed that no dog has ever been identical to any dog that you've ever worked with. Now, one thing that you will find is you're going to find patterns. I have worked with dogs that reminded me of other dogs. I have worked with dogs even in the similar pedigree lines that maybe have some of the same traits as another dog that they're related to. I've seen that. I definitely have seen some commonalities in some dogs that follow kind of the same pedigree lines. This is just working with protection dogs is something I have seen on a regular basis. But you will notice that even despite the fact that there are similarities in the lines and even within the same litter, you can never have two identical dogs. And why is that? Well, it's definitely each animal is wired uniquely different from birth. But going a little bit past that, I'm going to be reading something off of the book that I'm currently reading. It's Dogs Startling New Understanding of Canon Origin, Behavior, and Evolution by Raymond and Lorna Coppinger. And here's how it reads. Here's how this paragraph reads. Why is it that no two animals truly look alike or think alike? Simply because no two animals can grow up in identical environments. No two animals can occupy the same space at the same time. That line right there is so powerful. No two animals can occupy the same space at the same time, which means they cannot receive identical environmental signals, and therefore they do not get wired up identically. As a result, they do not have the same capacity to think and behave. Again, this is something that I do tell a lot of people. I've talked to students about this. No two dogs can ever be the same, even when the same litter. Every individual will perceive the same identical experience a little bit different. If you want to scale this up to people, humans, same exact thing. You and your twin brother can experience the same exact event, and it is very likely that the two of you will walk out with a slightly different outcome or slightly different experience. So this is still the case with animals, it's still the case with dogs. So no two animals can occupy the same space at the same time, which means they cannot receive identical environmental signals and they do not get wired up identically. So this little paragraph is really it kind of follows a different explanation that the Coppingers are going over, which is they're talking about the how the brain grows and how the brain in certain animals, based on how they are imprinted, can be larger or smaller. And I'm going to read you a little bit of that. It says right here, it is not only the size of the eye to which the brain must accommodate, but also the activity of the eye. The brain accommodates to the eye by growing the appropriate connections for both its size and its activity. The brain of a puppy raised in the dark doesn't make as many connections. A puppy raised in the dark has smaller brain than one raised normally. So this is only part of the brain size where they talk about this. Now, if the puppy brain has essentially the same number of cells as the adult brain, how can it grow 10 times bigger? The answer is that brain growth is almost entirely the connections between the cells. Of all the brain cells present at birth, a huge number are not connected or wired together. That takes place during puppy development as the wiring pattern of the nerve cells. Another very interesting line here in the book, right? So, of all the brain cells present at birth, a huge number are not connected or wired together. What takes place during puppy development is the wiring pattern of the nerve cells. And there's a little bit more to it than that. It's kind of goes off into the size of the brain, the connections that they make, and how past a certain age, the brain just will not get any bigger. And according to this graph in the book, that age is about 12 months. So that's when it reaches its largest capacity. And it says after that, after the growth stops, the growth of the brain, it is difficult to change the wiring. So, and then one other line here that I find very interesting in regards to this topic. Once a dog gets to 16 weeks, it has made or has not made just about all the social connections it is ever going to make. This is again regarding the brain, and also the back to the imprinting, which I just went over in a previous video, where the cutoff is 16 weeks. And then the video that I made kind of goes into sheepdogs and how they're imprinted from very early on, and he also talks about the he also talks about the bird dogs and how they're imprinted with different stimuli like gunshots from early on. This is something that is very common with working dog breeders. It is very interesting though to see this piece of knowledge that I learned and almost took for granted trace back several years, decades. Just knowledge that it is common knowledge, but to just see it in writing, which I know that shouldn't make the difference. I know it's about experience, but yes, it's something that really confirms what I already knew and what a lot of people don't know. That's the interesting thing. That's why one of the reasons that we take things for granted is we know them, we take them as conventional wisdom and common sense, but at the same time, we don't realize that it's common sense to us when we've been working in the field long enough. We're working with enough dogs to learn this. This is why you cannot take the same exact approach every single time and get the same exact results every single time with every single dog you work with. This is why dog training is almost a tailor-made process. Cookie cutter systems are good because they give you a guideline, but you cannot stay strict to that cookie cutter approach. There are several times where I will tell a trainer, a student, or a client, this is what I want you to do. I have something in my head. I'm picturing how it's going to go, and normally it goes the way I plan. But midway, I will tell that person, let's not do that anymore. That's not the right approach for your dog, even though the same approach will work for the previous dog. I've had classes where I'm given instruction on the same exact topic, and we're working on mechanics, and I'll tell one person, I think that you should stop doing that immediately, and this is why I think you should stop doing that. And then like 2 seconds later, I'll go to another student and tell them, I think you need to start doing this. So the exact same opposite suggestion that I just gave the previous person, I'm giving this person. So two people, same exercise, same class. One person I'm telling them, stop doing that. The next person I'm telling them, I need you to do this, which is what I told the previous person not to do. And then people sometimes don't realize that they'll look at each other and like, well, they're doing this, so I'm going to do it. This is why watching videos on YouTube on how to do things, it's a great tool. I have a lot of videos on how to do things myself on on dog training, but you should always in a way consult with what it is that is going to work best for your dog. So consult with yourself, consult with your dog, so to speak, and see whether that approach is going to help your dog, because the mechanics are not always going to be taken the same exact way. Remember, each dog two dogs can experience the same exact thing. Two dogs, those two dogs will walk away with slightly different lessons.